A very warm welcome to this year's European Sustainable Energy Week. A very warm welcome to 4 days of EUSEF 2021. As you know, the European Union aims to become climate neutral by 2050. And the most important midterm goal is to cut greenhouse gas emissions by more than half by 2030, and that's less than 10 years away. And that's also the reason why this year's edition of the European Sustainable Energy Week goes under the motto Towards 2030, Reshaping the European Energy System. You'll find an incredibly wide-ranging program with lots of policy sessions, with energy talks in the meantime. Also, check out the online fair, the Energy Fair. It's all in the menu on the main buttons, and it's the big colorful buttons there. Make sure you have a look around and you find the information you really need. Now, my name is Olaf Bruns. I'm a journalist based here in Brussels, and it is my honor and pleasure to guide you through this year's edition of the European Sustainable Energy Week, which will be held in a hybrid way with us and some speakers joining us here in Brussels, but you and many others joining us remotely. Now, today's plan kicks off with this introduction session, for which we are pleased to announce a few very high-level speakers. We then move to the awards session, which really puts in the spotlight people who are changing, who are making a difference in the sustainable energy transition. Starting at 2, there will be the ambassadors debate, where 4 selected very high-level experts in clean energy will debate their commitment and their support for reshaping the European energy system, and also about how people really can make a difference. And that's also the moment where we'll be taking questions, so sharpen your pencils to have them ready for later, while in reality we're taking them rather by Slido, which is an easy-to-use online tool. Most of you probably know how to use it, but for those who don't worry, everything will be explained afterwards. Now, this will be followed by the first set of 3 policy sessions. One is the launch of the EU Equality Platform for the energy sector. One is on decarbonization, and one is on citizen-led renovation. And finally, we'll conclude the day with the launch of a hackathon. Now, the hackathon will run through all 4 days of EUSEF 2021. It's too late to join the hackathon now, but do join us later in the afternoon for the launch of the hackathon. Check out all the projects of the participants online, and make sure you join us again on Thursday morning, when the winners will be announced and all participants to the hackathon will make their pitches. Now, before moving to the high-level speeches of this opening session, just a few technical details to make sure we're all on the same page. Now, first and foremost, we encourage you to tweet using the hashtag, which is written everywhere there. It's EUSEF 2021, that is hashtag EUSEF 2021. You can watch all sessions on Live Now, which is one of the buttons in the menu, by clicking on the individual sessions. And if you're following the individual sessions one by one, make sure that after the session ends, you click on the next one in order to make sure not to miss the next sessions. Now, also make sure you don't miss out on anything by adding the sessions you want to watch today, but also for the next days, to your own agenda. And to do that, you use the small calendar icon that is on top of each session, and clicking on that, you add these sessions to your agenda. And if you miss anything, no worries at all. You can watch the replay on the sessions pages in the menu. So you can watch them later, you can watch them this evening and all through the time of this European Sustainable Energy Week. Now, I really also encourage you to use the networking tool, which is also in the menu, so to meet and make contacts with other participants. Book one-to-one meetings with others using the calendar slots on their individual pages. And at any time, if you have a problem with the platform, don't hesitate to contact the technical support. Now, all these functions are part of the menu, and they're also the big colorful buttons in the menu. So I'm sure you're going to find what is necessary. And finally, interpretation. For today's plenary sessions, there is translation provided in French, in German. And if you are watching us on the main page, it's just a drop down at the bottom of the page. There's this drop down, you click on it and you can watch these sessions in French as well as in German. If you watch us on the public feed, there is a link below for the interpretation. But the policy sessions later on today, and also through the whole European Sustainable Energy Week, will be run exclusively in English. So here we are ready for the start of this opening session of the European Sustainable Energy Week. But before launching the speeches, let me just walk you through the speakers we're happy to announce for today. We'll hit the road with a few opening words by the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. She will be followed by the Minister of Infrastructure of Slovenia, Jernej Vrtovic, for the Slovenian presidency of the Council. After that, there will be a speech by Niels Fuglsang, a member of the European Parliament, where he is the rapporteur on the Energy Efficiency Directive. Mr. Fuglsang will be followed by Christophe Hutin, an architect, but also the laureate of the 2019 Prize for Contemporary Architecture. Then, Jürgen Richterink will be speaking, the first Vice President of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And finally, it is up to the EU Commissioner for Energy, Kadri Simpson, to conclude this opening session. Now, moving to the essence of this opening session, first and foremost, we have some words by the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be talking to you today at the kickoff of the EU's Sustainable Energy Week. There could, of course, be no better time for our meeting. In only a couple of days, COP26 will start. The UN Climate Conference will be a moment of truth. Because current commitments are not enough to keep the world on track to reach the goal that we all agreed upon in Paris, limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. Most of you have been working in this field for many years, so you know better than anyone that we have to be even more ambitious. And I can assure you, the European Union will do everything to make COP26 a success. Because our climate cannot wait. And this is why Europe is committed to becoming the first climate neutral continent by 2050. And with the European Green Deal, we have proposed the world's most advanced blueprint to reduce emissions. We will put a price on pollution, and we will make sure that the energy we use is clean. Indeed, the energy transition is at the heart of our European Green Deal. Today, our energy system alone is responsible for 75% of the EU's greenhouse gas emissions. So we need to decarbonize Europe's energy mix. And the good news is we are on track to achieve this. In 2020, for example, renewable power generation overtook fossil fuels in the European Union. And European industry is a global leader in this sector, particularly in offshore wind. We want to build on this achievement and further speed up the use of renewables in Europe. And this is why for 2030, we propose to raise our renewable target to 40% of our energy. We also need to use energy more efficiently. And here too, we will propose targets to reflect our ambition, because only what gets measured gets done. I know that such fundamental transitions are not easy, and I'm well aware of the challenges that some of your industries are facing. But I am more than confident that with our European Green Deal, we will turn our fight against the climate crisis into an economic opportunity for all. Thanks to the European Green Deal and the innovations that come with it, European businesses are best placed to offer climate solutions for markets not only in the European Union, but across the globe. So let me give you two examples which I find especially inspiring in the context of this European Sustainable Energy Week. The first is hydrogen. Clean hydrogen is a perfect way to help reach our goal of climate neutrality. It will help to clean up some of our most polluting industries, steel, aluminium, and heavy goods transport. And this is why by 2030 already, we aim to increase annual production of green hydrogen to 10 million tons. It is high time to move hydrogen technologies from laboratories to factory floors and into people's everyday lives. The Green Highland project, for example, on the island of Mallorca is a great example. It is the first hydrogen valley on an European island. It will generate, distribute and use at least 300 tons of renewable hydrogen every year, produced from solar energy on Mallorca. Green hydrogen will fuel a fleet of fuel cell buses and rental vehicles on the island. It will generate heating for commercial and public buildings. And it will supply auxiliary power for ferries and port operations. This is our European Green Deal at work for European citizens. Or take ClearX, for instance, a project whose forerunner won our Sustainable Energy Week's Engagement Award in 2020. And this is my second example. ClearX will help 38,000 consumers in Eastern and Southern Europe to invest in and install renewable energy in systems like photovoltaic panels, batteries, pellet stoves, or heat pumps. And with projects like this, we are enabling people everywhere to reap the benefits of the energy transition. Decarbonizing the way we produce energy not only helps our planet, it also provides benefits on other fronts. We have all seen in recent weeks how crucial it is to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels, such as gas, oil, and coal. Currently, we're facing a steep global rise in energy prices, which is basically a rise in gas prices. That has happened before, especially when economies are picking up and supply lags behind demand. But Europe is currently importing 97% of its oil, 44% of its coal, and 90% of its gas. This makes our economy extremely vulnerable to price fluctuations in global energy markets, and it makes us dependent. By contrast, the production costs of renewable energy have remained stable. In fact, they've even decreased in recent years. So there can be only one conclusion. We must speed up the move from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Every kilowatt of electricity produced with renewable energy is not only an insurance against rising energy prices, it also helps us to reduce our dependency on imports, making both our society and our economy more resilient and our planet a healthier place. Ladies and gentlemen, the European Green Deal is Europe's calling card on the world stage. And in Glasgow, we will continue to reach out to all countries to convince them to be much more ambitious too. Following the example of the European Union, most of the major economies have set targets for climate neutrality by 2050 or shortly after, from the United States to China. We now need to hear concrete plans to keep within reach the limiting of global warming to 1.5 degrees. And we need to support the least developed and most vulnerable countries. The major economies have a special duty to help them adapt to climate change and reduce their emissions as well. We should help these countries to leapfrog beyond the fossil fuel-based economic development. An important tool for this is climate finance. Europe is already the leading contributor to the global goal of $100 billion per year. And on top of the $25 billion that we currently provide, I have pledged for the European Union a top-up of $5 billion until 2027. I look to all developed countries to join us in closing the climate finance gap. This is an important condition for success of COP26. Every country has a responsibility, and the time to act is now. Thank you.
The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, with a very timely reminder that we are the week before the COP26, and also with a couple of very important examples. But we are now joined by Jernej Vertovic, the Minister for Infrastructure of Slovenia, on behalf of the Slovenian Presidency of the Council. Minister, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear Kadri, it's my great pleasure to greet you all on behalf of the Slovenian Presidency of the EU Council at the opening session of the European Sustainable Energy Week. This year's conference coincides with uncertain times for the energy sector, as it faces great challenges, not only at the EU level, but also globally. Despite these uncertainties, we must stay determined to rethink our way of life and look for the alternatives for our existence. And yeah, I am an optimist. At the beginning of our presidency, in July, the Commission presented the Fit for 55 legislative package. We have started with the liberation of the renewables and energy efficiency directives within the Energy Council formation immediately. So far, we have made good progress, I believe. Member States meet at least twice per week to discuss the directives at the expert level. What we note from the discussion at this point is that there is a general agreement that the proposals are a positive and much needed step towards realizing the European Council decisions on more ambitious EU climate targets by 2030. But however, I see that we still have some work to do in terms of the more detailed discussion on certain aspects of the proposals. It's clear that the whole package is very complex with many interlinkages, which is why we need some more time to better understand how individual proposals affect others. So, ladies and gentlemen, as for the Energy Efficiency Directive, a more detailed discussions will be needed on the individual heating and cooling sub-targets for member states. We also see that objectives and measures for energy efficiency in public sector will need further work. Most member states, for example, oppose opposed the new annual savings of 1.5% of final energy consumption, and several member states are also calling for flexibility to regulate the field of energy poverty alleviation, as they see this issue being part of the social policies, not energy. Member states also agree that the measures should not impose additional administrative burden. As for the Renewables Directive, it seems member states will need to further deliberate, particularly on the sub-target for heating and cooling sector and on the renewable energy in the transport sector. Especially the latter, it is closely linked on some of the other acts from the package, like the alternative fuels, for example. The Slovenian presidency will continue to make sure that the approach is consistent and that the interlinkages of the package are well addressed through efficient coordination of negotiation within Council. We will continue with a very intense tempo of deliberation, and we hope to do as much as possible by December in order for the French presidency to take over and finish negotiation within the Council. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Kadri, let me conclude by saying that there is a great understanding among key decision makers that the transition will require large investments, understandably, especially in the light of recent spike of energy prices, economic and also social dimensions of the legislative package are receiving a greater attention. Therefore, we need to continue our work and deliver a just and cost-efficient results for the citizens as soon as possible, so that the ultimate goal of decarbonization is not hindered but supported. And let me also invite all interested participants to the yearly Strategic Energy Technology Plan Conference taking place at the end of November in Slovenia. There will be continued debates, especially on energy technologies, that will bring us closer to the desired goal. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kadri, and also thank you very much, our organization. Thank you.
Jernej Vertovic, the Slovenian Minister for Infrastructure, on behalf of the Slovenian Presidency of the Council. Minister, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much once again.
Thank you. And our next guest is Niels Fuglsang, a member of the European Parliament, where he is the rapporteur on the Energy Efficiency Directive. Mr. Fuglsang, we are pleased to welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, attendees of the EU's Sustainable Energy Week. We are stuck in a fossil economy. The consequences, the heat waves, the floods, and the forest fires, they are already here. And we know that if we do not cut greenhouse gas emissions drastically, we have seen only the beginning. Science is crystal clear on that. Average temperatures for the last 5-year period is the highest on record. And in 2019, where we had the European Parliament election, well, that was the second hottest year on record. I myself ran for the European Parliament in 2019, and that was the first climate election in the world. Climate change, Greta Thunberg, Fridays for Future were on the agenda. European citizens expected us and expect us to act. And this year, finally, we've taken a major concrete step to mitigate climate change. We have adopted the European Union's climate law. It says that we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% in 2030 compared to 1990. Now it is time to deliver and to make sure that the promises of the climate laws are fulfilled. And I hope and I think that the discussions of the EU Sustainable Energy Week will contribute to that purpose. I have 3 points that I would like you to, and I hope that you can take on board in your discussions in the coming days. The first one is about the ambition level, the EU's ambition level. Is it high enough? The second one is about the energy crisis that we stand in and the long-term solutions to the energy crisis. And the third one regards our role at the international level at the COP26. So first things first. In July, the European Commission proposed a Fit for 55 package. It's a number of proposals that have the purpose of making sure that we live up to the reduction target of the climate law. Among these proposals are the revision of the Renewables Energy Directive with the aim of having 40% renewable energy in 2030. The Commission has also proposed to revise the Energy Efficiency Directive with the purpose of reducing energy consumption by 9% in 2030 compared to a 2020 reference scenario. I myself am rapporteur of the Energy Efficiency Directive, and I'm of course deeply involved in the negotiations here. Furthermore, the proposals from the Commission also involve raising the energy taxation and putting a higher price on CO2 via the emissions trading system. There's no doubt that the Commission has put an ambitious proposal on the table, but I believe that we need to look at how we can make it even more ambitious. Remember that the climate law that we adopted says at least 55% reductions. There is a reason for that. Our position in the European Parliament was actually 60% reductions. And we took that position because we know that if we up to the Paris Agreement of limiting global temperature rises to 1.5 degrees, then we need to do more. The rich countries, that is us, we need to do more. I hope that we can find a deal on the Fit for 55 package that makes sure that the targets are not voluntary, but the targets are binding. I also think we should investigate how we can increase the targets for renewable energy and energy efficiency. And we also need to have a deal where we have a governance framework that evaluates continuously, are we on track? And if we're not on track, we need to up our effort. So my second point regards the ongoing energy crisis. We've seen that energy prices are rising, and as winter is coming, millions of Europeans go into a very unsecure situation. States are already taking short-term measures and supporting vulnerable groups in the society, and that is necessary, but we also need long-term solutions. I've seen that some politicians and leaders blame the green transition and the Green Deal for the energy crisis. Let's be clear that they are absolutely wrong. The reason for the energy crisis is not too much green transition, but too little. We have seen gas prices rise. It's not renewable energy prices that rise, it's the gas prices. And we are still dependent on importing gas because we have not built out enough renewable energy. So we need to up that. We need to boost renewable energy, and we need to boost energy efficiency. When it comes to energy efficiency, we need to renovate our buildings so they can hold the heat more effectively. Actually, if we renovate and increase energy efficiency by 1%, then we will reduce gas imports by 2.6%, and that will save money for households and companies. When it comes to the cost of energy from solar plants and wind turbines, well, that energy is cheaper than the energy from gas and coal. That is why we need more renewable energy to secure lower energy prices. My third and final point regards our role on the international stage. The COP26 meeting in Glasgow next month, I believe, will be the world's most important meeting because it's here we have a possibility, a chance of raising the global effort on climate change, on reducing or mitigating climate change and expanding renewable energy. Europe needs to lead, and we are doing so by putting a higher target with our climate law on reductions, and also by putting the comprehensive measures to live up to that target in the Fit for 55 package. One important result that we should fight for at the COP26, and where we should take the lead, concerns the subsidies to fossil fuels. Several important commitments have been made up to the meeting. For example, China has promised to end international coal subsidies, but we're still seeing massive fossil subsidies in the world. And in Europe, in the EU alone, in 2018, 50 billion euros was given to natural gas, coal, and oil. Europe needs to step up on this matter. At the COP, the partners must commit themselves to an ambitious target of phasing out fossil fuels, and Europe could play a leading role by taking the initiative to go first. Friends, the work before us is a vital one for our future, our society, and the discussions that you have and that we have at the EU Sustainable Energy Week are an important part of this work. I hope my 3 points can be an inspiration for further conversations, and I wish you all some very good and fruitful discussions. Thank you.
Niels Fuglsang, the Rapporteur for the Energy Efficiency Directive at the European Parliament. Thank you very much. Thank you. And our next speaker is an architect, but also the laureate of the 2019 EU Prize for Contemporary Architecture, Christophe Hutin. If I may switch to French for a moment, as the speech will be in French, and it's also a reminder for everybody, if you don't understand French, use the interpretation. As I mentioned before, if you watch us on the main feed, it's a small drop-down sign. If you watch us on the public feed, it's a link below the video. Donc voilà, un immense bienvenue à vous, Monsieur Hutin. La parole est à vous.
Bonjour à vous, je vous remercie pour votre invitation, pour votre accueil. Je vais vous parler d'un projet que nous avons réalisé à Bordeaux avec une équipe d'architectes composée de Anne Lacaton, Jean-Philippe Vassal et Frédéric Gruot et moi-même. Ce projet concerne la transformation de 530 logements, 3 bâtiments des années 60, et ce projet nous a valu le prix Mies van der Rohe, le prix de l'Union européenne pour l'excellence en architecture. Je vous propose de regarder les slides de présentation de ce projet. Voilà, donc nous sommes à Bordeaux, une ville avec un centre historique du XVIIIe siècle, et vous voyez en arrière-plan l'urbanisme moderne des années 1960. Diapo suivante, s'il vous plaît. Voilà, donc une organisation très rationnelle, avec des bâtiments élancés de grande hauteur qui ont permis de libérer le sol de telle façon que l'on puisse avoir des espaces de parc, des espaces de pleine terre avec la présence de la nature. Diapo suivante, s'il vous plaît. Voilà les immeubles sur lesquels nous avons travaillé. Donc il s'agit de trois barres de logements de 530 logements sociaux, et ce sont des bâtiments qui sont très négativement connotés. C'est une architecture que nous n'aimons pas en France, et qui sont sujets à des projets de renouvellement urbain qui souvent ont recours à la démolition. Voilà, ces immeubles étaient voués à être démolis, et en fait nous avons proposé de transformer ces immeubles, de les métamorphoser vraiment, de les agrandir, de les mettre à jour. Et le problème souvent, c'est que lorsque l'on traite des questions d'urbanisme et d'architecture, nous regardons ces immeubles un petit peu de loin, comme je vous le montre sur cette photo, c'est-à-dire avec une certaine distance qui résume de façon assez simpliste ces immeubles à leur forme urbaine. On les qualifie de bars, de tours, de plots. Mais je vous invite sur la diapo suivante à rentrer à l'intérieur de ces immeubles. Diapo suivante, s'il vous plaît. Voilà. Donc, ce que nous faisons, c'est que, en fait, nous nous positionnons à l'intérieur. Et en fait, lorsque vous visitez ces appartements, vous découvrez 530 mondes merveilleux, incroyables, où en fait les gens depuis 1960 prennent un soin et une attention particulière à leur habitation, de telle façon à ce que l'architecture puisse accueillir leur projet de vie. Voilà, ce sont des intérieurs incroyables, vraiment des mondes en soi, où les gens ont écrit leur histoire, ils ont installé leur projet de vie. Diapo suivante. Voilà, donc le fait d'être à l'intérieur de l'architecture permet de comprendre et d'avoir un rapport très intime et très particulier avec la situation telle que les gens les habitent. Diapo suivante. Donc voilà comment nous avons opéré. Nous avons agrandi ces immeubles. Nous les avons augmentés avec des planchers préfabriqués de 4 mètres d'épaisseur, ce qui a permis de complètement les ouvrir et de créer une nouvelle relation avec le climat et surtout de proposer ce qu'on appelle un jardin d'hiver, c'est-à-dire un dispositif de rapport au climat et donc de performance énergétique qui est dans la main des habitants. Diapo suivante. Ce projet a transformé radicalement l'image et la perception que l'on a de ces immeubles. Diapo suivante. Diapo suivante encore. Donc voilà, vous avez ici sur un appartement le travail qui a été réalisé. Donc nous avons déposé les menuiseries, les fenêtres qui étaient petites, un petit peu étroites. Nous avons scié les murs de la façade. Nous avons rajouté 4 mètres de plancher de telle façon à augmenter l'habitation. Et puis nous avons positionné des baies vitrées au niveau de la façade d'origine avec du double vitrage et des rideaux thermiques. Et puis ensuite vous avez un jardin d'hiver avec une nouvelle enveloppe, une nouvelle peau qui est à l'extérieur et qui a un effet tampon avec le climat. Et ces extensions permettent d'augmenter la capacité de ces appartements. Et elle permet aussi de contrôler de façon bioclimatique le soleil, la ventilation et le rayonnement dans ces appartements. Diapo suivante. Voilà la situation telle que nous la découvrons au début du projet. Là, vous avez le plan d'un niveau d'une cage d'escalier avec 3 appartements. 2 appartements traversants et un appartement mono-orienté. Et diapo suivante. Et voilà donc une fois l'extension installée, comment la vie va s'étendre dans cet espace et qui est, je le rappelle, non programmé. C'est-à-dire que ces appartements ont été construits de façon pensée, de façon fonctionnaliste, où chaque espace a une fonction attribuée. Et en fait, nous avons augmenté, nous avons doublé la surface de plancher des appartements en proposant un espace qui est non programmé et qui permet aux gens d'inventer la vie qui va avec une très très grande liberté dans l'appropriation et dans la façon dont ils veulent installer leur projet de vie. Diapo suivante. Voilà la façon dont nous avons travaillé. Je précise que ce projet s'est fait en site occupé, c'est-à-dire que les gens habitent dans les appartements pendant la construction. Les 530 familles qui vivent dans ces immeubles devaient avoir le bénéfice de ce projet. Donc nous avons travaillé très précisément pour que les gens ne soient pas déplacés pendant la construction et qu'ils puissent avoir le bénéfice très rapidement de cette construction. Donc pour cela, vous voyez que les dalles et l'ensemble des constructions sont préfabriquées. Et par exemple, ici, vous pouvez constater que le garde-corps est posé sur la dalle avant le levage, ce qui permet, une fois l'extension déposée, immédiatement aux ouvriers d'enchaîner les tâches suivantes et nous n'avons pas recours à des échafaudages ou à des systèmes de sécurité technique. Et donc, nous allons très très vite dans la réalisation de ce projet. Diapo suivante. Encore. Encore. Donc voilà comment s'est fait le travail. Allons-y. Encore. Et je vous propose maintenant de regarder quelques images de la façon dont les gens habitent dans ces appartements. Encore. Voilà, donc là vous avez l'exemple d'une cuisine. Maintenant, avec une grande fluidité de déplacement, ce que nous avons proposé, c'est que les gens puissent avoir les mêmes qualités qu'une maison, mais dans un appartement, c'est-à-dire un espace extérieur dans lequel on puisse circuler, dans lequel on puisse installer des meubles et son projet de vie. Diaporama suivante. L'économie d'énergie de ce bâtiment a été de 60%. C'est très important, c'est-à-dire que cet espace, il a une fonction de régulation thermique très efficace et surtout, ce que nous croyons, c'est que souvent, dans la performance énergétique, on pense toujours que les systèmes industriels vont avoir les solutions pour la performance énergétique. Nous pensons que ce sont les habitants qui ont une très grande expertise et qui ont la main et la maîtrise sur leur confort et donc sur la performance énergétique. Donc c'est eux les opérateurs C'est eux qui ouvrent, qui ventilent, qui tirent les rideaux, qui contrôlent le climat et qui permettent de garantir cette efficacité énergétique. Je vous rappelle que l'énergie la plus renouvelable et la plus disponible, c'est l'énergie humaine. Je vous propose d'avancer toutes les diapositives et afin de conclure cette présentation. Voilà, cette architecture, elle est le support de la vie pour le plaisir, pour le confort de ses habitants. Et surtout, je voudrais vous dire que le logement le plus performant, le logement du futur, c'est le logement qui existe déjà aujourd'hui, qu'il ne faut pas démolir et sur lequel il faut apporter une attention très particulière pour les réhabiliter avec délicatesse, avec gentillesse et avec efficacité. Merci à vous.
Merci beaucoup, Christophe Hutin. Merci beaucoup pour ce rappel important qu'on ne parle pas seulement d'énergie, mais aussi des gens. Christophe Hutin, the laureate of the 2019 EU Prize for Contemporary Architecture. And we move on with the first Vice President of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, Jurgen Richtering. And I can also do some Dutch. Een heel hartelijk welkom, meneer Richtering. But you don't have to switch to any translation. The speech will be in English. Mr. Richtering, the floor is yours.
Dankjewel, Olaf. And by the way, I am German, but I grew up in the Netherlands indeed. But good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for this opportunity to share with you our views, the views of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development on the most pressing subject of our time, how to address climate change challenge. The tasks ahead of us are momentous and we have no time to waste. We are meeting today on the eve of the COP26 climate conference, and the urgency to achieve real, binding and tangible progress could not be higher. For a long time, it has been popular to quote from the novel Il Gattopardo, or The Leopard. Everything must change for everything to remain the same. Ladies and gentlemen, this moment has passed. Now everything must change for nothing to remain the same. What we need is nothing less than a revolution in terms of ambition, commitment and delivery. With COP26 just 1 week away, we must concede that we are not there yet. Countries' climate pledges, unfortunately, are currently insufficient to meet Paris Agreement's goal of limiting the average global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees. If we are to achieve this goal, we need a radical transformation of economic systems. And the speed of this transformation will determine the possibility to prevent disastrous consequences associated with global warming. Transforming the energy sector is central to achieving the goals of the Paris Agreement, because the sector accounts for the majority of global greenhouse gas emissions. And to have these emissions by 2030 and to phase out or fully decarbonize fossil fuels by 2050 requires investments worth trillions. It requires a systemic transformation of the markets and regulatory structure that govern the energy sector. And it requires political commitment. And we particularly welcome the EU's Fit for 55 package with its Renewable Energy Directive, which sets an increased target of 40% of energy from renewable sources by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, we work closely with the EU as a donor, and without the contributions of the European Union, we wouldn't be as successful as we are. For example, the EU supports our Green Economy Financing Facility, and this facility supports improvement in energy efficiency in 29 countries and has already provided more than 4 billion of green solutions. Yes, we truly believe that the cheapest and most sustainable unit of energy is the one that we did not have to use. But the EBRD supports the transformation of the energy sector in many ways. In Kazakhstan, for example, we financed about 800 megawatt, or about half of the country's renewable energy capacity across 14 projects, often blending EBRD finance with concessional funds from the Climate Investment Funds and the Green Climate Fund to enable early movers to enter the nascent market. In this way, we were able to mobilize private capital from France, from Germany, the UK, and China. Scaling up renewable energy is central to the low carbon transition. The IEA's net zero by 2050 roadmap foresees renewables at 61% of electricity production in 2030, rising from 29% last year in 2020. To achieve this, we need annual wind capacity additions to at least triple and annual solar capacity additions to increase nearly 5 times. And we need the private sector. Without the private sector and its financial power, its innovative genius, and its unmatched capacity to find efficient and economically viable solutions, we will not achieve our goals. But for that to happen, we need clarity and certainty on the long-term strategic direction of the economy. To mobilize the private sector, a clear net zero commitment is vital, complemented by detailed plans for the delivery in the coming years. We support the development of such pathways on a sectoral level, as they are an important tool that informs policies and highlights the investments and technologies needed for the green transition. Scaling up renewable energy also requires market mechanisms that optimize cost allocation and incentivize project sponsors and investors. We have seen in country after country that competitive tenders deliver the lowest price for renewables. Today, the EBRD is supporting policy initiatives and auction programs in 14 markets throughout our regions, helping in the design and implementation of competitive bidding mechanism in excess of 1.5 gigawatt of solar and wind capacity. We simultaneously need to move away from fossil fuels. We are therefore working with high carbon emitting companies in the energy sector and assist them in moving to other sources of energy by developing and implementing decarbonization pathways. Of course, we are aware of the anxiety and the hesitation that transition towards a zero carbon world may cause. This is particularly relevant for our countries of operation, as some of them rely on high carbon emitting sectors, including coal. In fact, the EBRD regions have approximately 11% of global coal reserves, the majority of which are located in Ukraine, Poland, and Kazakhstan. We cannot close our eyes for the social and economic implications of the green transition, as they can impact local employment and livelihoods. Dedicated approaches need to be developed and implemented to support a just transition. And our approach to just transition therefore includes, for example, reskilling and entrepreneurship programs. Transforming the energy sector is an enormous challenge. It requires significant investment, restructuring of the energy market, and support for those bearing the immediate cost. And it will not be achieved without pain. But it also will bring benefits beyond the immediate impact of the environment. According to the same IEA, a surge in clean investments will create 14 million new jobs and add 4% to global GDP by 2030 compared to the business as usual scenario. It also brings electricity to the nearly 800 million people who currently lack access. And the reduction in air pollution will avoid 2 million premature deaths annually by 2050. The EBRD sees these challenges and the opportunities. We want to lead from the front and have set ourselves the goal to be fully aligned with the Paris Agreement at the beginning of 2023. And by 2025, the majority of our investments will support the green transition. To quote Il Gattopardo again, if you don't change, time will change you. Thank you for your attention.
Jürgen Richtering, and to make up for my erroneously speaking Dutch to you, vielen Dank, Jürgen Richtering, the Vice President of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And we are moving on. I've been joined here in Brussels in the studio by the European Commissioner for Energy, Kadri Simpson. Commissioner, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Minister Võrtovets, dear members of the global energy community, welcome to the EU Sustainable Energy Week 2021. It's very exciting to see people joining us all over Europe and beyond. And this is my second Sustainable Energy Week as EU Commissioner for Energy. And as you heard from the exceptional list of speakers before me, this year's event comes at an important crossroads in the energy transition. We made a commitment to reducing the EU's carbon emissions by at least 55% by 2030, keystone to our discussions this week. This sets the ground for eventually reaching climate neutrality. And the 2030 target is like a lighthouse. It shines a light that guides the way for our citizens, industry and stakeholders to follow the path of the clean energy transition and safely reach climate neutrality. That's especially important when the sea is stormy. Lately, it seems like that with the current surge in energy prices across the EU. This is something that will affect all of us as consumers in the short term and has the potential to impact the economic recovery as we emerge from the pandemic. Tomorrow, I will be in Luxembourg to discuss these issues with the EU energy ministers, and I expect it to come up again more than once during this week. If anything, it's a reminder that the clean energy transition is a process and that the move towards green, clean, sustainable energy is part of the equation for a lasting solution. But lighthouses are not just for turbulent times. They are also there to guide the way even in calm waters and giving direction to our day-to-day and long-term work. Since committing to our 2030 climate goals, we have adopted strategies on many aspects of the clean energy transition, from offshore renewables to kicking off a renovation wave in Europe. And the high point in terms of legislation came over the summer in July, when we adopted the first part of our historic Fit for 55 package. Among more than a dozen proposals, we presented an ambitious revision of the directives on renewable energy and energy efficiency. The second act will come by the end of this year with a proposal to decarbonize the gas market and establish a new market for clean hydrogen. We are also looking to revise the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, and we will present concrete plans to reduce methane emissions. And this is everything that I mentioned so far has a place for a detailed debate and discussion on the program of the Sustainable Energy Week. That should give you a sense of the variety of topics we are going to cover over the next few days. We have over 70 events, a mix of the expected ones you have come to know over the past few years, as well as some exciting new additions. This week's awards ceremony is taking place directly after this opening ceremony. On one hand, we are carrying on traditions with the Woman in Energy Award. At the same time, we are launching a brand new one called the Young Energy Trailblazer Award. The award ceremony is a personal favorite of mine, and the projects and individuals recognized today are not only leaders in transforming Europe's energy landscape, but they are true role models. And I think kicking off the week with a moment of inspiration is exactly the tone we want to set for the day. On Thursday, the focus is on youth, the next generation of EU energy leaders, and that's when we hold our first ever hackathon, putting some of the best young minds to the challenge of how we can better communicate the energy transition. This week, you are also going to hear the vision and expert knowledge on reducing our emissions over the next decade from a group of excellent guest speakers. There's a debate of ambassadors, which starts this afternoon session at 2 o'clock. And later in the week, you can hear from the climatologist Jean-Pascal Van Ypersele. And above all, what really makes this week is the chance to hear all of the voices in the energy transition: experts, citizens, entrepreneurs, policymakers. During the next few days, I want to hear and debate ideas on all of those topics I have mentioned and more. And I want to honor the work of current leaders and support the leaders of the future. We want to hear about the biggest challenges you are facing and bring together Europe's brightest minds to come up with solutions. We want to hear your voice, so don't be shy. Now I have given you a flavor of what is to come, so let's dive right in and get started. So without further ado, I have the great honor of declaring the 2021 EU Sustainable Energy Week officially open.
Kadri Simpson, the EU Commissioner for Energy, thank you very much. And again, of course, an immense and heartfelt thank you to all speakers who I think have set us well on track into the 2021 European Sustainable Energy Week. So, Commissioner, I think we are happy to have you for a little longer as we're set for the EUSEF Awards ceremony, which you already mentioned and which is waiting for us. So you join us for the ceremony, just click on the awards session in the main agenda and see you on the other side. Thank you.